Hey guys, Magnus Robert here, bringing you another tier list video. Today we're going to be doing another one on this notable character tier list. I'm going to be using this one again. We'll see how many more times I use it. I'm kind of running out of ideas in terms of how to rank characters, and I think I'm slowly transitioning into doing other little more creative things. Also, I've added a few extra characters onto this one today, just to sort of mix it up a bit. And today we're going to be ranking the characters based on their fighting ability. Now, how I'm going to do this is the scenario I'm sort of laying out is the character is basically in a ring, okay? No guns, no melee weapons, no nothing, okay? No dirty tricks, right? No pushing people down elevators or anything like that. We're in the octagon, okay? We're in the octagon, right? You can't go out of the ring. It's just one-on-one in the ring, okay? That's the scenario. And that's how we're going to be ranking the characters. So it is pretty much on strength and skill, right? Without a weapon. Now, it does have a little bit of overlap with my survivability tier list, but, you know, this is unique in the fact that we're just talking strictly only physical fighting ability. So I've got a few tiers, and you know, as we put characters in it, I probably might move them around because my sort of aim at the end of this video is to have like a list of the characters in said list. Hypothetically, would probably be able to hold their own pretty well with the characters they share the tier with. So these are the tiers we've got. We've got Pro. Okay, so these are like the best fighters. One-on-one fighters. Decent fighter. This is like, you know, they're pretty good. Probably they're not as good as the pros, but they're, you know, they can hold their own. Pretty skilled is like, they've got a bit of skill. Maybe I should put bit of skill instead, actually. Maybe that, oh God, Jesus Christ. Maybe that actually sort of distinguishes those two. So decent fighter, bit of skill. Meh is obviously our ones in the middle. This one probably is going to be like, I just don't know quite enough about them. Like, I don't think we've seen enough about them, and I'm basing it off kind of, you know, circumstantial stuff. Will struggle is like, they're probably not a great fighter, probably will struggle, but they're not gonna, you know, lose straight away. Win if lucky, this is like, they've shown some ability here and there against like walkers, not people, but I think if they were lucky and they were clever enough, they might be able to win. And lose every time these are for the absolute weaklings of the groups, okay? So yeah, that's how we're going to be doing it. So physical strength, they can't use any weapons at all, any guns. So aim ability basically doesn't matter in this scenario. So we're just going to pick them randomly, and we're going to kind of go as we go along. Let's start with Jerry. I think that's a good one to start with. Now, Jerry, obviously, a lot of his strength we're basing on him using his sword and his axe. Now, he was able to chop a man in two with one swing of an axe, basically. That is some fucking massive strength, right? Now, we've never seen him in a one-on-one fight, really, with anything other than a walker. And obviously, walkers are pretty weak, right? If Beth is able to overpower a walker pretty much, I think anyone can. Not to knock on Beth too much. But I think just from the fact that we saw that brute strength from Jerry, if he was in the octagon, you know, against an opponent, I think he's going to be a pretty decent fighter, okay? Because that is some fucking, like, that's a lot of strength to put an axe through someone, right? Plus, we've seen him with his sword. He's able to easily, like, you know, take out zombies with that. But the axe kill has convinced me here, is all we'll say. Now, who have we got next? Let's go with, I don't know, Scott. Bit random. Now, I don't know if we know enough about Scott. He gets shot in the leg and hobbles back home. Okay, you know, showing some kind of, I guess, pain resistance. But we're strictly talking about strength here. I just don't think we've seen enough. We've seen him kill walkers. He's able to do that pretty easily. You know, he was going on runs with Heath and that group of people. So he's capable. We know that. But in terms of the strength department, I'm going to have to, for now, put him in the meh because I don't know enough. And the meh is kind of, yeah, that's what the meh is about, right? We just don't know enough about them. Now, let's take, Tommy. Why not? So Tommy, I think, will struggle. Just doesn't seem the type. He's not, you know, he's been behind the walls. He is a doctor. So I feel like there's some intelligence there. So maybe he might not have the strength per se, but his intelligence and like how to avoid punches and things like that. I feel like he'd be that type of person. Like if he were to be in a one-on-one fist fight, he might be the type to duck and weave. We don't really know. I don't really know enough about it, but I just don't feel like, because he's been behind the walls for so long, my expectations for Tommy are pretty low. So I'm going to put Will struggle for now. We'll see if I move that around. Let's take Yumiko, Tommy's sister. Now, Yumiko is, I think, a bit different. Now, she's able to, obviously, pull back the bow and arrow, like things like that. You know, she's very capable with the bow and arrow. We see that. We see her against, like, walkers and stuff. She's able to, like, push them away, things like that. Again, it's not... I'm trying to, like, my memory of Yumiko is a bit flimsy, I guess, because it's the same with any sort of later season characters. I have watched, obviously, the amount of times I've watched, like, the first 6 seasons is a lot. The amount of times I've watched the later half of the show is a bit less, although I have watched it more than once. But I'm just trying to think, like, what does Yumiko... Is there a scene that could maybe, like, change my mind here? I can't think of, but... She definitely, I mean, pulling a bow and arrow and being able to be accurate with that, and whilst pulling it, that takes a lot of strength in itself. So, I'm going to put her in a bit of skill for now. We'll see. Michonne. Okay. Now, Michonne, I think, is a decent fighter. She's going in decent fighter because we see her against the governor, right? And she holds her own against the governor. Now, granted, who really won that fight? Now, if there was no fish tanks, there was no glass... right, with the governor, I think the person who wins that fight is the governor, okay? Because the governor had her in a chokehold, or with her sword over her neck. And if he didn't have the sword around her neck, I think he would have had his hands around her neck. And I think the governor would have killed her, okay? It was because Michonne used her mind and grabbed the glass and used that to get him off her. That's how she won, right? She used her brains and glass. And now... But without that, the governor's beating her. However, she does hold her own against him, right? She doesn't make it easy for him. It's a fucking hard fight, right? He struggles. Now, some people are going to point out, and I know this is going to come down in the comments and stuff, but like women versus men, like men obviously are on average, an average man has more strength than a woman, right? But I think Michonne kind of elevate, you know, she has a lot of skill and knowledge. So there's that one time in season 8, a savior grabs her, she's able to sort of push him off and then stab him. We see her numerous times against, you know, fighting other people in like other saviors. There's the Farron, the scavenger, who Michonne has a battle with. Now Farron apparently was played by like an MMA fighter or something, and I really recently found this out, and I never knew, because I always thought like Farron to me looked kind of like a bit scrawny, and I thought like, because in the comics it's like Andrea versus like this big burly guy, and I felt like in the comics there's a bit more because of that, and maybe that's like my, maybe I'm just being a bit sexist, but maybe if Farron was kind of set up more as like this capable fighter, right? If we saw like a short scene in the start of the episode of her like fucking, you know, absolutely body slamming some zombies, I think maybe that would have made the moment a bit better for me, But let's just take that Farron is like the actress is an MMA fighter. Let's just say that Farron, the actual character, was a bit like that as well, like some sort of wrestler or some sort of fighter. Okay, if we're taking that, then Michonne really like proved her worth there, right? And there's numerous other counts against zombies and stuff, and the fact that she's able to use that sword and easily slice heads. Yes, the sword is sharp, I understand that, but you still have to have a lot of strength in that to be able to, chop off heads and like slice faces, like you're cutting through bone. And she uses it against humans too, not just like she jumps out of the tree in season 3 and chops off Crowley's head, right? That's like going through bone and stuff. So I mean, like, I think she's like just shown so much strength that she easily has to go into decent fighter. Leaning towards pro, but we'll get to it. We'll see. Morgan. Now, Morgan has a fair amount of strength too. I think I'm going to have to put him in decent fighter as well. Now, yes, he uses the staff, right? But Morgan isn't just like physically strong, like we see him against, like, you know, he's able to drive a pretty blunt wooden staff through people's necks and heads and all sorts, right? Now that takes a lot of fucking strength. But on top of that, Morgan is also, like, because of his training from Eastman, he's like just a really skilled fighter. He'd be able to dodge, weave, you know, he's able to dodge, weave, punches, he's able to block, you know, all sorts. He has like a huge skill set. And actually, no, I changed my mind. He's pro. Okay, we saw him against Jesus. He beat that fight easily. Yeah, I think Morgan, for me, he shows so much strength, so much skill. He's easily pro. I'm moving him to pro. Okay, who else have we got? Let's take Jessie. Why not? Let's just do a few easy ones. So Jessie, I think, win if lucky. Now, we did see her against that female wolf, right? Now, we have no idea of the fighting ability of the female wolf, because it is just like a random woman. But like, Jessie gets knocked to the floor, she grabs the scissors and stabs her. Now, granted, she used weapons, right? And also she was pushed to the floor with the wolf, right? And I generally feel like that was a case of luck, okay, not Jessie's like fighting ability. Her willpower was important there, sure, because she had to stab this wolf with a pair of scissors, and that was probably mentally a pretty difficult thing to do, you know, like to maul a woman to death with a pair of scissors. But I think that scenario, Jessie kind of got a bit lucky, right? Because that wolf had her there to rights. So for me, Jessie's like a win if lucky. And also, oh god, I hate to say it, right? But she was like an abused housewife for years, taking punches and beatings. So she probably is used to a beating, right? But at the same time, if she's been constantly getting beaten, it means that she's never really fought back, probably. And I think, yeah, that kind of shows her fighting ability. I mean, that feels really yikesy to say, but I'm gonna have to stick with it. Who else do we have? Let's have Judith. Now, Judith, listen, okay? She's a child. I'm sorry. If she's lucky, maybe she'll win. Maybe I'll put her in the win if she's lucky. She's capable against the dead. She's able to use that sword, that's for sure. But I think her height and her age is definitely a disadvantage to her. And so for that reason, she's a win if lucky. I don't think she's quite a lose every time. She doesn't give me... because she's able to use that sword, even just so she must have some... you know, a bit of strength there. Although a sword's not like an axe, right? It's not like a Jerry situation. I'm going to put her in the win if lucky. I'm leaning towards lose every time, but maybe I'm just being mean because she's a child. Tammy. Tammy Rose. Now, Tammy Rose, right? Now, you might think she's an old woman. What the hell could she do? But there's a scene in season 9 where she jumps off the wagon to save her husband. And... you know, she's not, like, that incapable against the dead. Granted, she is old. She is older, right? And I think she was mostly behind the walls, or at least I get that impression. She can hold her own against the dead, that's for sure. But I'm going to put her in the win if lucky, I feel. Although I feel like I've seen more of her than I have Tommy. Nah, I think she's got determination. Do you know? And also, she, like, in season 9 with the Whisperers, she had the rake, and she was, like, fucking ready to come at them. She's like, yeah, come at me, bastards, right? Nah, I think she's got some fighting spirit in her. I'm going to put her in the will struggle. That's where I'm changing. I'm changing her there. So, who else have we got? Lizzie. Now, Lizzie, I think, is a lose every time. I think she shows less skill than what's her name? Judith. Now, yes, Lizzie can kill the walkers with a gun. She can kill her sister with a knife, right? But that takes barely any strength, right? To just gut someone with a knife. That doesn't take much strength. Anyone could do that, right? Anyone who has arms, at least. So I feel like Lizzie, for me, is a lose every time. Sophia is also a lose every time, obviously, because, yes, she's a child. A, she's a child. And B, she was very cowardly as well. I feel like if there was a one-on-one fight with her and Lizzie, I feel like Lizzie would win, right? If we're talking, just a fist fight. But, I mean, not by much. If it was Judith and Lizzie, I feel like Judith would easily kill Lizzie. She just got way more experience. She grew up in this world and all that. Now let's go for... Milton Mamet, why not? I feel like Milton, we see him against some walkers, like he helps to pin that one walker down that Andrea uses as like a camouflage one. And we do see he goes for the governor, but the governor easily overpowers him and stabs him. Like with the fact that the governor was even willing to give him that opportunity kind of shows that the governor knew how weak Milton was. So for me, Milton is a win if lucky. You know, he shows some determination, some strength, but barely any. Let's be honest, barely any. Now let's go for Tyrese. Tyrese is an interesting one. Now, I think easily he's at the very least indecent fighter. Or is he? Or is he just bit of skill? Because yes, Tyrese is able to... No, he's decent fighter. Okay, let me explain why. So Tyrese was able to... he kills the dead in the herd. The dead in the herd. The herd of walkers with the hammer, right? That was like pure the amount of exhaustion that he went through, the amount of fucking strength, and the fact that he kept going and going and going and going, right? Killing the dead. That shows fucking skill right there. The fight between him and Rick, right? Rick wins that fight, but it's only because Daryl holds Tyrese, right? I think if it was... I don't know. I don't really know how that fight would have differed if it was, like, fair, right? If it was just Rick and Tyrese and no one else in between, no Daryl holding Tyrese, right? I don't know who would have won there. Maybe Rick still? I'm not sure. But certainly he was good there. But his fight against Martin, like when he obviously... Martin goes out of the cabin. Tyrese kills all those zombies with no weapon, single-handedly. Then he bursts through the cabin doors, body slams Martin on the floor, gets the knife out of him and beats the absolute shit out of him. Now, it's only because of Tyrese's sort of moral compass why he, I guess, wasn't more brutal, right? That was the only reason. It's because he had like a strong moral compass. I feel like Tyrese is just a decent fighter, though. Overall, you can't not. I mean, the guy's built as well, so yeah. And now, I'm only putting him there, though, and not in pro, just because he did get beaten by Rick, although, yes, Rick kind of had help inadvertently by Daryl. And also, I think his moral convictions might come in the way a little bit, although I'm trying not to judge the characters based on that and just on their skill, and assuming that they're willing to kill said opponent. But yeah, I'm still going to put him there. I just don't feel confident putting him in pro. Mika is a lose every time as well, obviously. Should we just kind of get a few of these out the way? Who else we got? Sam is a lose every time. Quite easily. Who else? Herschel. That's an interesting one. Now listen. People say, well, he's an old man. He'll lose every time. No. Okay? I'm going to put Herschel in will struggle. Herschel is able to grab that walker, right? Freshly Walker Henry, the walker in the prison who died from the flu. He's able to grab that zombie, throw him over the railings and into the net. And that is a bit of strength. And bear in mind as well, Herschel at that point only had one fucking leg. That's some strength right there, okay? I think we see him against walkers. He's able to, stab and kill walkers pretty easily. Like he breaks Caleb, Dr. Caleb, when he turns. He sort of breaks Caleb's arm and stabs him. Again, a freshly turned walker. So I think Herschel does actually demonstrate quite a bit of strength, actually. I'm going to put him in the will struggle because I still think, yes, he's old and he's got one leg. So that is at a disadvantage. But no, I don't think he's like lose every time. That's for sure. We got Natanya. I think Natanya is a lose every time. She's older, and every time we've kind of seen her best someone, it's been with a gun. So I just don't feel very confident about Natanya. Although she does use a spear to kill walkers, so I don't know. Maybe a little bit. No, I'll put win if lucky. Okay, that's fair. I've changed Natanya to win if lucky. Who else have we got? RJ is a lose every time because he's very young and we've never seen him go against the dead. Dwayne is a lose every time because he's a young kid and we never saw him against any dead. Although he does hit Rick with a shovel and knocks him out, but again he had a weapon, so that doesn't count. Who else do we got? Let's go for Laura. Laura, I think, is... We see her fight against the dead with the spear alongside Gage in Season 10. She loses the fight to Beta pretty embarrassingly. Like, you know, she jumps on Beta's... Every time, like, she attacks Beta, Beta just sort of chucks her to the side to the point that Beta eventually gets bored of her and just slams her against the bars and kills her. So, I don't think Laura's, like, that capable of a fighter, I guess. I'm trying to think what else she does. Does she fight anyone else? There's a few, like, scuffles at the start of Season 9 she kind of gets into. I'm going to put Laura in the meh, because I feel like she is capable. I just don't know enough about her to confidently give a verdict, right? She doesn't seem incapable, but she doesn't seem, like, very capable. So, I'm going to put her in the meh for now. Let's go for... Martin, why not? Martin, we talked about Tyrese. Martin, I think, is in the same vein, really. Like, I guess we see him. Like, I feel like he'd hold his own in a fight. But again, I just don't think we've seen enough. I think we've seen enough to tell that he's capable and he's ruthless and he's, you know, probably got some fighting ability. But he loses the fight to Tyrese pretty embarrassingly. And yeah, nothing to demonstrate a higher skill set, really. Let's go for Merle Dixon. Now, Merle's an interesting one because I think he's easily got a bit of skill, right? Now, what fights have we got? We got him and Rick. Rick smacks him over him and T-Dog first. He wins that fight, obviously. I'm sorry, T-Dog. But he does have a gun, to be fair, so a bit of an advantage. So maybe not. But I feel like if it was T-Dog and Merle, I think Merle would win. Then we have Merle versus Rick. Rick was using dirty tactics, but it shows us a little bit. Then we have Season 3, Merle versus Martinez. That was all staged. So Merle versus Michonne holds his own, right? He does. He holds his own against Michonne. Now, granted, they had weapons, but they do use their feet and their feet a little bit and their fists. And then what else do we have? Merle versus the Governor. Now, yeah, the Governor does fucking easily beat Merle in that fight, but you got to think Merle had just been stomped on by all those guys. Like, he'd just been fucking stomped on by, like, Martinez and the rest of them. And that put Merle at his disadvantage because the Governor had, like, a huge advantage there. Now, to be fair, the Governor still beat the absolute fuck out of him regardless, right? The Merle didn't have a single chance. I think he got like a punch in, but it didn't even seem to phase the Governor. So for me, I feel like Merle is a decent fighter, but he can't go into the pro. I think he does hold his own against Michonne, and I think he would hold his own against Tyrese and Jerry. So yeah, I'm going to put him there. Decent fighter, seems right. Now we got... Let's just get... I feel like I need to get some of the boring ones out of the way. Vickers... now she's in the army, sure. How old is she meant to be? Like 50s, maybe? I don't know. I feel like Vickers, just because she's in the army, it probably demonstrates sort of like all the Commonwealth troopers. Does demonstrate she's got a little bit of skill, but again, not really seen enough of her, so I'm going to put her in the meh. We got Gracie is a child, so I'm going to put her in the lose every time. Now Herschel, well, I'm going to be basing him on the Dead City Herschel too, and again, I'm going to put Will Struggle because I feel like he seems capable enough now. Obviously, he's had, like, fingers removed, right? Or toes removed, right? He had his toes removed, I think. Was it his fingers or his toes? I don't fucking remember. But, like, and he seemed to be okay with that pain, right? Now, I know we're talking about pain threshold here, but I think that does show a little bit of ability. And obviously, he's, like, a teenager now in Dead City, so I feel, like, a bit more strong. Plus, he's, like, survived on the road. Obviously, he's had, like, that survived, like, you know, he grew up on the road, right? Against the dead and learning how to survive. So I just feel like all of that means at the very least I think he'll struggle, but he'd be good. But I haven't seen enough to put him, because we don't know how sheltered he was as well, and that's the problem I'm having here with putting him in the meh with the others, where I'm unsure of, because he's still young, even though he's like teenage. I'm talking about teenage Dead City version. He's still like fairly young, right? So I don't feel confident putting him in the meh. Who else do we got? We got Cole. This guy, I'm going to put bit of skill, okay? Because we saw him with his little weapons. He was pretty skilled with them. Now, we never really saw him one-on-one, to be honest. I mean, there was against the Reapers, but he had just got his hand chopped off. And then the Reapers were, like, all, you know, coming at, like, every angle, and they slit his throat pretty easily, right? But before that, he seemed capable, and Maggie said he was one of their best fighters. So I feel like bit of skill is fair. And I think on that note, I'll put Frost if I can find him, because I think he's on this list too. I'll put Frost there too, because I feel like Maggie said they're the best fighters, and from what we've seen, they seem pretty capable. I just don't think we saw enough to put them any higher. Is all. So let's go for Edwin Jenner. that's a funny one. I feel like Edwin Jenner is a how built? He's like fairly built, right? But again, we just don't see enough. I'm gonna put if will struggle. Yeah, will struggle. We'll go with that. Again, haven't really seen enough, but at the same time, he seemed pretty obviously he's not survived out there. I feel like the meh is kind of for like survivors who we know are capable and have survived like outside of the walls. However, we just don't really know their sort of physical strength. It hasn't been demonstrated on a big scale. I think that's what the meh and the distinction is, the meh with the other lower ones. Where with Edwin Jenner, he was like behind the CDC walls the whole time. So the best I can tell is that he probably would struggle, but that's about it. We're going for, I don't know, Brandon Carver. Now this guy with his weapons is very skilled. However, without his weapons, I still think he'd be skilled. He's a merc. He'll be trained, right? He'd be pretty pro in that stuff. He easily bested Negan, Elijah. No, actually, I'm changing my mind. Carver's going into pro, okay? He easily bested Maggie, Negan, and Elijah in a fight. He 1-on-3. He won that fight. If it was, he would have won that fight if it wasn't for Negan using dirty ass tactics. Okay, he would have won that fight. Now, if it was a 1-on-3, just fists, easily he wins. Okay, against Morgan, I think he could. I feel like him and Morgan, he'd hold his own against Morgan. I generally believe that. I feel like Carver is easily a pro. He's like one of the best fighters in my opinion, from what we've seen. Just from that one scene, really. Plus, he's a mercenary. Yeah, I have no doubts about that. Let's go for Gamma. Now, against Beta, yes, Beta used a knife. She loses pretty easily. He's able to sneak up on her, and he stabs her, and she can't really fight back much, or the most she can do is rip off part of his mask. What else? That's kind of the only fight, really. I mean, she gets knocked out by Rosita pretty easily, so that's not good for her. She gets KO'd. I feel like Gamma will struggle. Oh no, but she does overpower her sister, right? But then that's more of an indictment against her sister than her. So I'm gonna put will struggle, or maybe I should put her in meh. Maybe that's fair because we know that she's got to be capable. Yeah, I'm gonna put her in the meh because she's got to be capable because she survived so long out there in outside the walls and stuff. Let's go for Emmett Carson, the Doctor. Listen, I don't know enough about him. He seemed to have survived within the Hilltop walls, probably being protected for a bit before he was transferred to the Saviors, where he was also protected. So I'm going to put him in the win if lucky. He didn't seem that strong. I mean, he cowered and whimpered like a little bitch when Negan was beating him and trying to get that confession out of him. So I'm going to put him there. We got Reg, sort of same deal. He survived behind the walls. He never really had to get his hands dirty. I just feel like he's older as well, and he's more of an intellectual than a fighter. I feel like he's that win if lucky. He doesn't give me good fighting ability skills. We've got... Let's go for Martinez, okay? Martinez, I think, probably has a bit of skill. I think he's military, right? But again, it's kind of like in the same vein as like Cole and Frost. We know he's got to have skill. He's got to have some fighting ability. We've just not seen it demonstrated enough for me to feel confident putting him any higher. But he's got to have a bit of skill, so he has to go there. I think that's fair for Martinez. Gage. Now, where did I put the other one? Who was I talking about? Laura. Yeah, no. See, the thing is, right, Gage is younger and he's a teenager. maybe I'm being mean because we just haven't seen enough from Herschel, so that's the problem. But with Gage, we did, right? We saw him like killing the constant herds of walkers. He obviously was able to, dispatch them pretty easily. He was willing to go on that mission, that suicide mission that Maggie had, which I think shows some cojones, some balls at least, right? I feel like as well, what we got, the fight with Lydia. I mean, that was barely fair, but. Yeah, I don't know. I just think for me, like, Gage, like, shows some ability. Again, not enough to put him any higher. But I don't feel like he's a will struggle. That just doesn't feel right to me. Whereas these guys, I think they all have, like, a legitimate reason as to why they will struggle. Herschel's just because I haven't seen enough of. Herschel's just really an oddity for me because I don't know whether or not to put him higher. I feel like I should. But again, we haven't seen enough. Who else have we got? David. Grapey Davy. Right, so Grapey Davy, I think, he does beat up Aaron with Gary, although Aaron doesn't really fight back. So, that shows a little bit of skill, maybe. But he seems kind of scrawny. Again, I think he's in the same vein. We haven't seen enough. I think I'm going to have to put Grapey Davy there. And with that, I'm tempted to put Gary, but for Gary, maybe it's just the way that Davy kind of reacts to when he gets caught by Negan. Maybe that's what's kind of sort of tinting my view of his fighting ability. But Gary, I feel like, does have a bit of skill. He just seems a bit more, and it is just a feeling, right? This is based on a feeling, but it's the fact that Gary is involved in the slaughtering of the scavengers, and also the fact that Gary, I think, is the one. Like, Gary's the one to like really beat up Aaron, whereas David is just kind of, throwing in a few kicks. But Gary's the one who seems to like really throw those punches. For me, I feel like Gary's got a bit more skill than Davey, so I'm gonna put him there. Bit of skill. Olivia, I'm sorry, Olivia. I think Olivia's losing every time. She does slap Negan though. All right, that's like her closest thing to a fight scene. But yeah, she's capable with the machete. Oh, no, she is capable with the machete. I feel like I'm being mean to her. No, win if lucky. She does kill walkers with the machete in No Way Out, so I think that shows a little bit. These guys never really killed walkers with melee weapons, so they go down there. Who else have we got? Fat Joseph. So Fat Joseph for me, Joey, I think is probably a win if lucky. He seems pretty pathetic, not that capable. He does help beat up Daryl, but that's with like a group of other dudes. So I think win if lucky is probably fair for him. His weight is going to be a disadvantage. I hate to say it. And, well, no, he can use it to his advantage. But again, he just doesn't seem that capable, if that makes sense. Should we go for Cal? So I feel like for Cal and Eduardo, they're guard, they're on guard, they're on duty constantly, but at the same time, I don't know if we've seen enough of them. I think they're also going to have to go in the mare, both Cal and Eduardo in the mare for me. Again, they use spears, they're on guard, but we just haven't seen enough. They're going to have to go there. I'm sorry for all those Cal and Eduardo fans. I know you're out there. Okay. Let's go for Benjamin. Now, Benjamin, trained by Morgan, pretty skilled. Now, yes, he's probably not that strong, but I think he probably has, like, because Morgan sort of trained him and he took to Morgan's training, like, obviously really well. Like, Ezekiel comments that, he's learned really quickly. I think for both Benjamin and also Henry as well, although Henry wasn't as, like, trained as... Actually, would I put Henry there? I think Benjamin showed a bit more skill than his younger brother, to be fair. But yeah, for me, Benjamin has to go in bit of skill, because I just feel like he's trained by Morgan. He's not as good as Morgan, but I think he'd be able to duck and weave and like really be able to, kind of avoid his target a bit, tire his target out and then best him, because he was trained by a master who was trained by Eastman. Well, now, where the hell is Henry? I can't find Henry, and it's really annoying me, because I want to just kind of talk about Henry now. Okay, we'll do Eastman before I find Henry. So Eastman, obviously trained by Morgan. Now, do I think Eastman kind of outdid Morgan? Yes. But at the same time, Eastman's trained. He was the guy who trained Morgan. We didn't see tons of Eastman, but he's able to easily best Morgan in a fight, which proves his worth. However, I think the difference is Morgan, A, was in his crazy mood then, and B, I think Morgan's skill has greatly improved since being trained by Eastman. So for me, Eastman has to go into the decent fighter for sure, because I feel like he would hold his own against Murrell, Tyrese, Michonne, and Jerry. But I don't know if he would actually hold his own against Morgan, because we saw actually in their sort of final little fight that Morgan does best Eastman. So yeah, no, I forgot about that. And I feel like Carver would best Eastman too. But Eastman I do think is a decent fighter, that's for sure. So he goes there. Henry, there's Henry. Now, I don't think Henry is Benjamin level. Oh, maybe he is. I don't know. I'm trying to... maybe I'm judging him because he's younger than Benjamin. Even, like, old, aged up Henry is younger than Benjamin. But, like, Benjamin's, like... He was able to, like, kind of best Jared, and I feel like he was. And, you know, he was trained by Morgan for longer, whereas Henry was trained as a young boy and then kind of grew up and just, I guess, adapted to it. It's really tricky. I feel like Beta beats him. I'm trying to think, but he does best some. Does he best some Whisperers? Or is it Lydia? I don't remember. Man, I'm gonna put Henry in the mare. I just don't feel confident putting him in Bit of Skill. Yeah, he's going to go there, unfortunately. But if I'm forgetting a scene, let me know. And maybe I'll bump him up if necessary. Virgil? Okay. Now, against Michonne, he loses easily. And against, like, the Ferals and stuff, he barely wins. And we see him, like, against, like, Walker. I don't know how the fuck this guy survived so long. He's like throwing zombies to the ground, and he's really struggling to do it. I feel like Virgil is a win if lucky. This guy somehow won the lottery because he should have died a long time ago. Denise, I think, is a win if lucky. She only ever kills one zombie, and then she dies right after that. She didn't seem very capable, really, against, like, in terms of a fighting situation. I'm sorry, Denise. You gotta go there. Amy, same difference, didn't seem that capable, gets overpowered by, like, one walker, grabs her arm, and she's not able to pull away, and just it sinks his teeth in. Maybe that was the shock, sure, but regardless, that shows. That's all I'm basing it off. That's all I have to base it off, so she has to go there. Maybe even slipping into the lose every time. Maybe actually, nah, I'll be nice. I'll just leave that for the children. We've got Dr. Harlan Carson, a little bit capable. We see, you know, I think he's a bit more capable than his brother, but at the same time, he has been behind the walls and all that. I feel like he will struggle, but he definitely can, like, best walkers and stuff. We see that in the little episode with him and Gabriel on the road. He's got some balls, you know, he tries to go for the gun and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. He just doesn't seem like a great fighter to me. Jocelyn easily gets beaten by Michonne, has all the children do her dirty bidding, okay? I don't know if we see, but she definitely obviously survived on the road with her children, probably also attacking other groups. So for me, I think she's a will struggle. I think we know she doesn't seem that capable. Maybe she's just been lucky when it's come to other groups. Maybe she should go into the meh. I'm not sure, but I feel like I'm confident with the will struggle just because she was, like, quite easily beaten by Michonne, and Michonne was also fucking pregnant. Okay, and you get beaten by a pregnant woman when you've got the advantage, because I think Jocelyn hits her first with, like, that wooden plank, and you get beaten by a pregnant woman. All right, and I know it's Michonne, so she was Jocelyn was at the disadvantage. Either way, I think that proves Jocelyn's not a great fighter. Let's go for Maggie. That's an interesting one. So, Maggie, ooh. So against Warren, Warren, who the fuck is Warren? So in Woodbury, in season 3, she is able to overpower a Woodbury soldier called Warren and drive a bone through that guy's neck. That shows some skill. Later, we've got her season 4. I'm trying to think, does she have a fight? Okay. Let's just fast track a little bit. We got season 6. She's very okay. She's capable with knives. She's able to drive knives into zombies' heads and stuff like that. We've got the fight with the Reapers. So we've got a few mercs who go after her, and she bests a couple. She's able to overpower that one guy who gets hit by the propellant and blows up. I forget which one's which. Maybe he's called Fisher. I don't remember exactly. Okay, they were all the same fucking character to me. I did a profile on him though, so I was able to distinguish him at one point. But she overpowers that guy, is my point. The Reaper sniper as well. She's able to, I think, does she overpower him? I don't remember exactly. Regardless, it doesn't matter. My point stands. She's able to overpower that merc. So that's pretty, and push him out into the firing range. Now that shows some skill there. We got her fight with Brandon, which she kind of loses, but she's able to like take a few beatings and like kind of stand, get back up, and she does like, she loses, but she's capable is what I'm trying to kind of get at, right? She doesn't lose after one punch. She doesn't get KO'd and that's it. We got her fight with Leah, which again, I think she was also losing that fight. That's probably fair to say. And then a few fights with Negan in Dead City. All in all, I think Maggie has a bit of skill, but I don't feel like she's a decent fighter. I just don't think she's there, unfortunately. So she's going to go in bit of skill. And seeing as I talked about it, we'll just briefly do Leah. What the hell is Leah? Leah. I think Leah is, she's a merc and all that. And she's able to best Maggie. Yeah, no, I think decent fight is probably fair. Not on the same level as Carver, but she's a mercenary. She's crafty, like with the Commonwealth troopers, and when Lance tries to approach her to talk to her, she's able to use some crafty tricks. Obviously, she had a gun there, so she did have an advantage, but still that shows some skill. Plus, her fight with Maggie, she easily wins. If it wasn't for Daryl, she would have killed Maggie. And yes, Maggie, I think she had a knife, but again, like if she had her fists, I think she would have been able to strangle Maggie and kill Maggie regardless. So yeah, for me, I think Leah's easily a decent fighter. She a mercenary after all. Okay, shall we go Aaron? Aaron's an interesting one. Now Aaron, I think, has definitely got a bit of skill. I think he's probably on the same level as Maggie, okay? We see him, he's got his mace arm is going to be removed in this fight. So he is going to be fighting one-handed. But regardless, I think even if he was one-handed, I feel like he has got like some capability, like some fighting ability, right? Yeah. I feel like he'd be good still. We see him against walkers, we see him against humans. I think he's got a bit of skill still, but he does have a disadvantage of only having one hand. I just don't feel confident putting him any higher. Sorry for all you Aaron fans out there. Who else have we got? Jesus. Now this is an interesting one because Morgan bested him in the fight easily. Morgan won that fight. But Jesus definitely held his own. We saw him against the dead. We saw him against Rick and Daryl in his first introductory episode. We saw him against other saviors and stuff. And I wish we did see a bit more of his fighting abilities, but he's definitely got very good fighting abilities. So I think Jesus is in the decent fighter. I don't want to put him in the pro though. I just don't feel like I don't think we actually see enough of him one-on-one and on other survivors for me to feel confident in putting him in the pro. And now if we're talking comic Jesus, he'd easily be in the pro. But TV show Jesus, I'm just going to have to put in decent fighter. Because, plus he does get, like, bested by that Whisperer, right? That's like okay, he didn't know that Whisperer was a Whisperer. He just thought it was a fucking zombie. But still, swipe, ban, dead. He didn't expect it, to be fair, but regardless. I think for Jesus, decent fighter is probably fair. I can't put him in the pro. I just can't do it. Okay, who else have we got? Let's go for T-Dog. Now, like I said, Merle kind of beat T-Dog up, although T-Dog was at a disadvantage. But I feel like if it was a one-on-one fight, Merle would probably win, as much as I wouldn't want him to. I feel like T-Dog we haven't seen enough of. I feel like I'm going to have to put him in the meh, unfortunately. I feel like he would be capable in a fight, but again, I just don't know how capable. So I can't put him any higher. He's going to go in the meh. We've got... Let's do Connie, why not? Connie, I think, again... She does hold her own against the Whisperers. She is able to kill walkers with a fucking slingshot. Okay, I'm sorry. Killing walkers with a slingshot, like a rock and a slingshot, that is impressive. It's stupid. It's one of the fucking dumbest weapons they put in the show. It actually makes me cringe so hard. But both Connie and Kelly, I think, have to instantly go into bitter skill. Because that takes some fucking strength, right? Like, to pull a rock far enough back. Wait, no, but would it even matter how strong you were? Maybe not. I don't know. That to me is just insane. Would it matter how much you pulled the rock, really, though? I mean, I guess it wouldn't. Because even... Oh, no, I don't know. But they're able to do it, like, so consistently, right? And from, like... And they got great aim, but we're not talking about aim. Oh, God, this one's tricky. I don't know what to... I just don't feel... I feel like meh is not fair. And I feel like will struggle is not fair. So Connie and Kelly are going in bitter skill. I don't care. That's where they're going, okay? And I think... On that basis, and also because they survived like for so long, like outside the walls and stuff. Yeah, we don't really see them one-on-one in people, but one-on-one fights with other people. But yeah, I still feel like they gotta go there. Who else have we got? Tobin. Now, this guy's fucking big, right? He's a big guy. And I'm basing this partially on Walker Tobin. But Walker Tobin was fucking strong as shit. Feels like one of the strongest walkers we've seen. But yeah, Tobin was a big guy, construction dude, built. I think from everything we've seen, he's got a bit of skill for sure. And I feel like he could, hold his own against any of these people in this tier. Yeah, I think he could hold his own against Yumiko and Cole and Frost and Martinez. Yeah, I generally feel that. I feel like Tobin's pretty capable. He's a big dude, and it's Walker. Walker Tobin was fucking almost indestructible. And I think even Carol kind of struggled to kill Walker Tobin, not because of not just the emotional attachment, but also just because he was fucking powerful. Carol, speaking of, now I feel like Carol is a weird one. I don't know where to put Carol. She's kind of an anomaly, right? An anomaly, right? Because Carol Peltier. Trying to think of fight scenes. Does Carol have many fight scenes? My mind is going a bit blank here. My mind's like focused at Dead City, but that shouldn't be it. So we got her fight scene with the captured Whisperer. Though it isn't a fight scene. She's just beating him up, and the guy's tied up. So that's not fair. Where else does Carol show her abilities? There's a few times like against Whisperers and stuff where she, is able to best Whisperers. We have her fight with Morgan. Oh yeah, Morgan easily beats her in that fight. Though he slams her on the ground. I think Carol has to go in bitter skill. I just don't think she's I don't think she's on this level. But I think she could probably hold her own against most of these people. I feel like she'd hold her own against Maggie and One-Armed Aaron and Tobin. Yeah, I feel like that's fair for Carol. Bit of skill for Carol. Rosita's an interesting one. Now, she does lose the fight against Beta. She was going to die if it wasn't for Gamma. But Beta, I think, is an exception. Rosita is also there's her fight with Dante, which she easily wins. Her fight with is there any other fights she has? She has a scuffle with some saviors and stuff here and there. Yeah, I think Rosita is bit of skill, that's for sure. I just don't see her on this level. I don't see her on the decent fighter level. But definitely bit of skill. Probably the higher end of bit of skill, that's for sure. Just because she was able to hold it against Beta for quite, a fair few seconds. Sorry about that. Anyway, we've got Richard. Loses his fight against Daryl pretty easily. Although, he holds his own a little bit. I'm going to put him in the meh, though. I just don't think we know enough to put him any higher. And he loses against Morgan very easily, although Morgan did have a stick, so that's unfair. Morgan. Bad Morgan. Jared, this guy, again, I feel like he's a meh. I just don't know. I don't think we know enough about him. He's an arsehole, and he kind of is a bit wormy. Actually, no, because Morgan like holds him there pretty easily and tricks him pretty easily. I'm gonna go with the will struggle. I think that's fair. He's like the kid who was bullied in school, right? Any advantage he has, he uses to abuse people, and that's the kind of vibe he gives me. And that's why I feel like he probably actually struggle when he enters the octagon. Nicholas is pretty weaselly, pretty wimpy. Now, he is able to push open those doors with the strength of Noah and Glenn. So he kind of out-strengths them by pushing open those revolving doors. Only like an inch, right? So not by much. But he does kind of give me wimpy, well, actually, Glenn then overpowers and beats the shit out of him after that. So I think I'm going to go with the will struggle for Nicholas. And I will do Glenn whilst we're at it. Now, Glenn, not as capable. Now, he lost his fight against Merle when he tried to surprise attack Merle. He lost that fight, okay? Although, did he have a gun? Oh, yeah. No, he didn't. He just lost that fight. He lost that fight against Merle. Now we've got he was beaten up though. To be fair as well, Merle beat him up and stuff, and he does hold his own a little bit against Merle. Then we've got the fight with Nicholas. He beats up Nicholas. The fight with Aiden. He clearly shows skill against those. He's able to duck and dive those punches. But again, I just don't see Glenn besting like Tyrese and Merle and Eastman and Leah. I think Glenn is easily a bit of skill, but not any higher. Now we've got Max Mercer. Been behind the walls, not that capable. Is able to kill the dead, though. Win if lucky's fair for her. Eric, same thing. He's been behind the walls a lot. He is, able to shoot the saviors and stuff. Probably able to kill the dead, although he did go on runs and stuff with Aaron. So, maybe that kind of leans me to will struggle, not win if lucky. I'm going to put him there, although he does have that twink energy. Not relevant. I just wanted to say it. We've got Morales. Morales, he has the bat in season 1. He's able to absolutely fucking decimate some zombies with that. He's pretty built, right? He's not like he's got a bit of a dad bod rocking, but I think he's a savior. He clearly went through a lot of trauma. He's on the road for a lot before he found the saviors, and he kind of became like a savior soldier. I think for that reason alone, he's because we know as well with the bat and the fact he was able to cave in some skulls with a baseball bat. For me, he's going to go in the bit of skill. I just feel, but I think, I don't know though. Maybe I will put him in the meh. Yeah, I think like just because he caved in some skulls with some baseball bats, it's probably not enough. I think I'm going to put him in the meh. Yeah, Morales is going in the meh. Brandon, he's able to kill a woman and a child, I guess. But he doesn't kind of give me... He just doesn't give me the vibes that he's that strong. He killed like some people who were vulnerable. So I'm going to put him in the will struggle. Deanna, I love Deanna. Great lady, nice lady. She's a win if lucky, okay? She kills a few walkers, barely. Apart from that, I feel like Deanna's actually a lose every time. I'm not going to lie. I think she would struggle against some of these children. Is that fair to say? No, I'm just going to leave Deanna in the win if lucky. I don't think she's a lose every time, but she's definitely the lower end of the win if lucky. But we all love Deanna. Pamela thinks the same metric. She's in the politician metric, although she was a kind of a socialite, not a politician. Yeah, but the problem with Pamela is she's been behind the walls. She's a bit older, and also on top of that, she just has no fighting skill whatsoever. Not even against the dead, really. I don't think she's probably killed that many walkers, really. Although she's probably killed a few. She does pick up the gun and shoot a child, aka Judith, but again, she had a gun, so that's an unfair advantage. Let's go for Ron. That's an interesting one. I think Ron is a will struggle because he does best Carl in a fight. And Carl also, actually no, he doesn't best Carl in a fight. Carl, he struggles against Carl in a fight, but then he does attack then Carl with a shovel. Carl does overpower him, so I think Carl, actually no, Ron. Yeah, Ron is a win if lucky. I mean, he lost those fights to Carl, although Carl did struggle, which was kind of embarrassing. Now, Carl's an interesting one as well. We never really see him in a proper fight. There's the fight with Ron, which aren't really proper fights. And then we have a few, like, tussles with some walkers here and there, where like the one where his sort of solo episode after the prison falls, where he has like 3 walkers on top of him, and now he does have a gun there, so that's a bit different, but he's able to sort of push those 3 walkers that are on top of him, so that shows a little bit of strength. Then we have him, I don't know, that's all I can really think of. There's a few times he kills walkers, like with like chops off heads. There's that one in the season 6 finale where he runs up and he like kills that walker with the branch in him. But I mean, honestly, I just don't feel like we've seen enough with Carl. And based on his fight with Ron and the fact that he kind of struggled quite hard to beat up Ron, I'm gonna have to put Carl in the will struggle. I honestly will. He's capable of a gun. He's good. He's a good aim. He's got he's got like the mindset of a survivor, right? And if he has a gun, he'd be easily higher. But I feel like physical strength wise, Carl probably would struggle. And I think he would struggle. Like, I feel like most of these people could probably hold their own against Carl. Even Herschel. I generally feel like Herschel could probably hold his own against Carl. I can't lie. I mean, even like with the Claimers, right? The Claimer Dan, he easily like overpowers Carl. If it wasn't for Rick biting Joe's throat out, Claimer Dan would have easily had his way with Carl. So yeah, I think Carl is a will struggle. I think that's being fair. Joe, Claimer Joe. Now he does best Rick. Kind of, although he has a gun to Rick's head. Rick smacks him in the face, and then Rick punches him, and Joe like smacks him with the gun, and then has him in the bear lock, right? And Rick obviously can't do anything; he can't move. That's why he resorts to biting Joe. So that based alone, and because I'll get onto Rick in a sec. Based alone on that, Joe has to go in bit of skill. We see him obviously against Daryl. He takes that punch against Daryl and he has no trouble with it. He laughs about it. Then we have the fight scenes with the short things we see in the web episodes. He's able to overpower those people who rob him and chop their arms off and stuff. I feel like Joe is like a capable ass survivor. It's mainly the fact that he does kind of best Rick, although he does have the advantage, A, and B. Rick is pretty distressed, but the bear hug, right? The bear lock, like obviously Rick had no other option there. He had to bite Joe's throat out, right? Because why would he? Like, maybe he just did it for the fun of it, right? But Rick didn't try and get free. He obviously couldn't get free of that grip. So the only way he could get free is by using his teeth. So for that, I'm gonna have to put Joe in a bit of skill, and then we'll do Ricky Dicky Dog Grimes. Okay, now Ricky Dicky Dog Grimes before Ones Who Live, I think, probably goes into Decent Fighter, and I think that would be fair. However, in The Ones Who Live, we see that Rick has, like, fucking special military skills, and he's been trained. I think just for that alone, and the fact that before that we obviously saw that Rick was pretty skilled, I feel like Rick is a pro fighter, even with one hand, okay? He was trained... Like, his part of his training was with only one hand, because he was obviously still a consignee then, and then he signed up for the military. He was, like, trained in fighting, right? Yeah, it's the training. The training, I just can't not put him there. The training, I think, elevates Rick. But before that, Rick is just Decent Fighter. That's for sure. Let's go for a few. We've got Patricia is a win if lucky for obvious reasons. She's kind of older. She's not that capable of a fighter. Otis, I think, is probably the same vein. Earl, I think Earl, unironically, he does like go against the dead, and he does attack the dead a few times. I think he's on the same level as his wife, although his wife did need to help him that one time. The wagon kind of got overrun, and there was the dead coming, but I don't know. I still feel like he's probably somewhat capable. We got Andrew. He does kind of best Rick, although it was Rick before his prime. He holds his own against Rick, that's for sure. But maybe we've not seen enough. I'm going to go with the meh for Andrew. No, that's not fair. No, it is fair. I'm gonna go with the meh for Andrew. I just don't think we've shown enough. But he does kind of best Rick. But he had the surprise attack, B, he had an axe, and C, Rick was kind of in a distressed moment. Right, he didn't even know Andrew was there, and he thought Andrew was fucking dead. He's literally seeing a ghost. Oscar, I don't think we saw enough, really. I'm going to have to put him in the meh. He definitely seems like he would be capable. He definitely seems like he's pretty built. So I don't feel I can't put him any lower. But at the same time, I haven't seen enough to put him any higher. And that's going to be the case for a few people. I'm going to say the same for Arat, actually. Does overpower Rosita, but kind of was under the orders of Negan, so we didn't really know. Like, Rosita wasn't exactly going to fight back in that scenario. And apart from that, I can't think of anything Arat really does that kind of shows her fighting ability. So she's going to go in the meh, but she definitely would be pretty capable. We just haven't seen enough. Same with Regina. She obviously got to the leadership position or lieutenant position, so she's clearly obviously very capable. Negan likes his strong women after all. And I don't know. But Regina, again, we just haven't seen enough of to put her any higher. But we know that she has to be somewhat capable, so I can't put her any lower. Beth is an interesting one. I think Beth is I hate to say it, win if lucky. I fucking love Beth, right? She's a great character. She's not a great fighter, okay? She does win the fight against O'Donnell, but with Dawn's help and also using the elevator shaft method, okay? And that's a dirty-ass tactic, right? There's the fight against Gorman, but she uses a glass and also a Walker Joan again. She's clever, right? But she won't have those types of things in the Octagon. And in the Octagon, all she can really do to avoid the fighting is to duck and weave. And for me, Beth doesn't seem like a duck and weaver, okay? Tara. I'm going to put in Will Struggle. I just don't feel like she's a win if lucky. But at the same time, I mean, she had like police academy training, and that's all I really know. Is there any fights that Tara's in? There's the fight with the scavengers, I guess, where she kind of like holds her own a little bit. I think a little bit, maybe. No, Rosita really holds her own in that fight. Tara not as much. But again, that's all we've really got for Rosita. So I'm gonna have to put her in the for Tara. I'm gonna have to put her in the Will Struggle. She just doesn't give me she doesn't give me those vibes. I feel like she's more of a lover, not a fighter, and that's okay. We got Siddiq, bested by Dante. He seemed like pretty skilled, but again, I don't think we actually saw enough of Siddiq's fighting abilities to put him any higher. Like, he got overpowered by the Whisperers, and taken into the barn where he had saw all the deaths, and then he was easily bested by Dante when he kind of had an advantage over Dante, because I think he knew before Dante knew he knew. And so for that reason, Dante, I think, has to go into the bit of skill, right? Although I feel like Rosita does best him pretty easily, so that one's tricky. That one is tricky. Do I put Rosita into decent fighter? Maybe I do. Unironically, I feel like Rosita would probably beat Maggie in a fight. I feel like Rosita would beat Aaron, one-armed Aaron in a fight as well. Would Rosita beat Glenn in a fight? I think maybe. I think Rosita could probably hold her own against Leah, maybe. I don't know if she would hold her own against Eastman or Merle, though. That's what I'm Rosita's a weird one. I don't know where to put her. I'm going to put her at the end of Decent Fighter, but just know she's at the end of this, because I'm not so confident she could beat Michonne or Tyrese or Merle in a fight. Leah, maybe. Jesus, maybe. Eastman, maybe. Jerry, at a push, possibly. But not Tyrese and Michonne. I feel like she'd easily lose that fight. We've got Bob Stuckey. Now, Bob Stuckey, listen, likable guy, nice guy. I don't think we know enough. I just don't think we saw enough. He's obviously capable. He survived on his own. He's got the machete and shit, so we know he's capable enough. But he is kind of scrawny. He is an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic, right? He's just too lovable. I can't see him in a fight. But even if he is, to me, I think he's got it on the meh. We just haven't seen enough to really easily say one way or the other. Axel, I think Axel will struggle. He gives those vibes. Okay, he's not really been in the walls. He's been outside. He's been within the prison walls for all that time. And on top of that, yeah, he's kind of whimpery, right? He begs for his life, unlike Oscar, who's like, yeah, kill me if you want, motherfucker. I'm not begging for my life. So, yeah, for me, Axel is a will struggle. Sasha, that's an interesting one. I don't know if we ever saw Sasha actually fight. There's kind of like a little mini fight with on the road, right? No, that's not more of a scuffle. That's not a fight. Does Sasha ever have a fight? But anyway, regardless, we never really see her actually fight like one-on-one with her fists. But saying that, Sasha is like a fucking menace, right? She's determined. Sorry, I had to sneeze. And regardless, I think she just kind of gives me that willpower. Those are the vibes I get from Sasha. She is like on a mission constantly, and it's like non-stop. For me, and also Walker Sasha is able to like knock Negan over. Like that shows some strength, even if it is in Walker form, right? Yeah, I'm gonna put Sasha in bitter skill. I think that's fair. My voice is going. Oh god. We've got DJ. Like I said with the other saviors, he's got to be kind of a meh for me because I just don't know enough about him. Sherry, a little bit of skill, more based on what we see on Fear, but she's able to like best a few people here and there, overpower a few people here and there. Yeah, I'm gonna put her in bitter skill. I think that's fair. Dwight, I don't think we've seen enough, but I think he's probably on the same level as his wife, to be honest. Unironically. Or actually, maybe I put Sherry in the meh. I don't know if I know enough. I don't remember Fear enough. That's the problem. I kind of blanked Fear out my mind. Most of post season 4 Fear, I think I've watched maybe at best twice. I don't remember enough. And like season 8, I've only watched once. So yeah, Sherry I'm going to put in the meh. Dwight I'm going to put in bit of skill because he's able to use the crossbow and that takes a lot of strength. And I think that's probably fair. We got Shira. Clearly somewhat capable, but I don't know if I know enough, so I'm going to put her in the meh. But she was like a Lance spy and stuff like that, so she can't be any lower, I feel. But I just don't know enough to put her any higher. Lance, we'll do Lance. Why not? We'll do Lance. Where's Lance? Lance Hornsby. Listen, Lance is like a clever guy. He's pretty skilled, but a one-on-one fight, I just don't see it. I don't see him winning, really. I think he's a win if lucky, to be quite honest. He's a man of the mind, not a man of the fist. We've got Maze was able to overpower Aaron and like tie him up and stuff. So I think on that level alone, he has to be in the very least the meh. Although, granted, we don't know, did he use his gun? We don't know exactly how he snuck up on Aaron. So for me, Maze has got to be in the meh just because we don't know enough. But he obviously is very capable because he was surviving on his own for a long time. And he was able to sort of kill or torture his brother and tie his brother up. And yeah, he obviously was robbing people. Well, assuming he's like robbing people. And he was able to get people to do the Russian roulette stuff as well. And he kind of lived a long time, doing that weird strategy. So, yeah. Rachel, I think, is a will struggle. She must be pretty capable because she survived for that long in the ocean side. She's obviously capable of a spit. Even, like, child Rachel was pretty skilled. She's, like, a bit older, I feel. Maybe I put her in there. But again, I don't know if we know enough. But then I feel like meh is not fair. Because I think... I don't know. Will struggle feels right to me, is all I'll say. And we'll leave it at that. Because I think I'm getting a bit exhausted now talking, but we'll just want to get through a few more. We got Lydia, gets easily beaten up by Gage and all that lot, although it was kind of 3-on-1. It's easily overpowered by Negan. She is kind of young. I think Lydia's a will struggle. She's definitely capable enough, but I think her age and the fact now she also has one arm is probably a disadvantage. It puts her at a big disadvantage. She's going to go there. Heath, I don't think we know enough about. I think he's honestly in the meh. Definitely capable enough against the dead, but I just don't think we've seen him really in terms of like fighting enough of. And again, but we also saw enough that I don't feel like he should be down here. I think Tara should honestly probably be in the meh, thinking about it. I'm going to move Tara to the meh. I just don't think we saw enough of her. She just kind of gives me lover, not fighter vibes, and that's why I was kind of putting her a bit lower, but that's probably unfair to do, because I shouldn't be basing it on their personalities. Simon is like a capable dude, but he does get easily beaten by Negan. He tries to use some dirty tactics too, and it still doesn't pay off, because he starts the fight like early, right, to try and get an advantage. Doesn't really work out for him. I honestly think Simon was more of a, using his brains than his brawns, I guess. Like, because he was, that's the only fight we see him in, and he loses it pretty badly, I feel. So, yeah. Will struggle feels mean, though. That doesn't feel fair. Should I put him in meh? I'm going to put him in meh. I just don't think we know enough. I think that's probably fair. Karen, she doesn't give me that strong vibe. She's able to kill walkers through the fence, I guess. That's something. Win if lucky. Whatever. We're going to put her there. She was stabbed in the head by Carol and then dragged, alright? And that must mean she was pretty light. I don't know. Diane, uses the bow and arrows, so by that logic, she has to be the same as like Yumiko and stuff. I think that's probably fair. Bit of skill. She obviously seems pretty capable. She's been around for a long time. She's obviously been on the road, not on the road, but outside the walls and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to put her there. Ezekiel, I think, is probably on the same level. He uses the sword, sure. He seems like... What fights do we have? The fight with him... There's not really any fights. Is Ezekiel ever in any like physical fights? I cannot think of any. There's that one in like Princess's Hallucination, but that shouldn't count. I can't think of any, to be honest, but to me, bit of skill seems right for Ezekiel. He definitely he's capable enough with his sword, that's for sure. I feel like he could easily hold his own for a little bit in a fight. I just couldn't put him any higher. I'm leaning towards the meh, unironically, for Ezekiel, but I'm going to leave him there. I think it doesn't feel right to put him in the meh. Nah. We've got Sebastian. Weasley dude gets other people to do his dirty work for him. Never really been outside the walls properly. He's always had it like controlled kills and stuff. I think it's an easily win if lucky for him. We'll have Toby Carson, CIA, obviously pretty skilled in somewhat in fighting. Absolute psychopath, that's for sure. But I just think based on his like training and his stuff, I think he's got to at the very least be a bit of skill. And from what we've seen, he was like pretty ruthless and stuff. And I think, he was able to like play like the wolves, the sheep in wolf's clothing, the wolf in sheep's clothing. Sorry, he's able to do that pretty easily. Yeah, I feel confident putting him there. Bob Lamson was able to knock Sasha out, but using dirty ass tactics. Was obviously not that capable of a fighter. Was pretty much a coward. He was running away from Rick and gets run over. For me, I think he's a will struggle. He is a cop. Maybe I should put him in the meh, because he is a cop. He is trained, but I don't know. Being a cop's a bit different to being like, CIA. I think the sort of fitness level. Well, I actually know being CIA you don't have to be fit to be CIA, do you really? But I don't know. Based on what I saw, it's probably not enough. Carson, I think, is a bit different. I just feel like we saw how kind of capable he was, and the fact that Lance recruited him as well, right? So that must mean that Lance was confident in his skills too. So I'm gonna put him there. Yeah, Bob Lamson, I'm just gonna put in the meh. We haven't really seen enough of him for me to confidently say one or the other. Now Alden, okay. Alden, I have to instantly put in decent fighter for one reason, and that's the fact that guy was stabbed in the gut and still beat Montanio, the Reaper that was appeared as a walker, in a fight. So obviously it happened off screen, but basically Montanio was a Reaper who found Alden hidden in the church. They fought to the death, right? And it was basically a draw, right? Montanio died, but also Alden died, right? They slit each other's throats or whatever. But the thing is Alden was at a disadvantage because A, he was stabbed in the gut, and B, he was against a fucking mercenary, and he's still kind of like not won, but like drew, right? And so for that reason alone, I have to put Alden in decent fighter. Now, yes, we don't know how capable Montaño, the Reaper that Alden went against, how capable that guy was, but he was a mercenary, so like that alone, I think has to, gives that alone just kind of sells it to me. Alden instantly, just from that, becomes decent fighter. Plus, we see him like, train and stuff, and he's in their little militia and all that. So yeah, he's gonna go there for me quite easily. But just based on that, I know, crazy. Gareth, kind of weaselly. We only ever really see him use a gun. I've never seen him fight. He kind of gives me weaselly vibes, and it's based on a vibe. And I realize that he's a will struggle. We've got Aiden. Bested by Glenn pretty easily, ducked and weaved, right? Not that, doesn't seem that. He's on the same level as Nicholas, okay? He's in the will struggle. I'm trying to get through this now, okay? Dale, older guy, older gentleman, but he's able to chop a zombie's head off with an axe. That takes some skill, but he does get bested by a single fucking walker in an open field. I had some argument with some guy in a comment section about this, okay? I'm sorry, okay? I love Dale. He's a great guy. He does chop a walker's head off with an axe. But Dale gets fucking bested by one walker in an open field. Now, yes, the field was misty. And now, yes, the walker did surprise him. But listen, you're unable to throw that walker to the side. We see countless characters are able to do that. Or hold the walker up. Or, grab its arms when it's trying to get into his stomach, to rip its stomach open. I mean, that walker was pretty strong as well, sure, but yeah, regardless, for me, Dale, I love you, but you're a win if lucky, based on that one encounter and how you die, okay? Laurie, I don't know if I've seen enough of Laurie. I feel like she just doesn't give me like. She was kind of protected and sheltered a little bit. She kind of has a little she best Shane somewhat, like, but that was more because like Shane was like, oh fuck, I'm going too far here. When in the situation in the CDC, I can't think of anything that Laurie really does in terms of a fight. There's a few walkers maybe. I don't even know. But win if lucky feels wrong for Laurie. Am I wrong in saying that? Maybe she's just a will struggle. Maybe we just haven't seen enough. No, I feel like Mare's not fair. I feel like I'm being too nice then. I'm gonna put Laurie in will struggle. That feels right to me. Jimmy was like a kid, barely experienced. But then I don't know. Would he beat Laurie? I feel like maybe he'd beat Laurie. Fuck, Laurie's a difficult one. I really do feel like maybe I should just put Laurie in win if lucky. Maybe that is right. I don't know. It feels mean, but yeah, she's never really a fighter. I like Laurie as a character though. Okay, Jimmy, listen, he's a kid, not that experienced. He kind of gives me win if lucky vibes. That's where I'm putting him. Tomas, pretty grizzled, pretty capable. Does tries his own at Rick, tries to kill Rick. Swing of the machete, Rick dodges, throws the walker on Rick, but he does beat Big Tiny's head in with that fucking pipe, right? That brutal, capable. Okay, he gives me the vibes he would be like a decent fighter if it was a one-on-one. Okay, he's in a prison. But then I probably should do the same for Oscar. I feel like Oscar has to be up here if Tomas is up here. Because I feel like Oscar would best Tomas in a fight, or at least hold his own. That feels right to me. Okay, so I'm going to put Tomas in bit of skill, but I'm also adding Oscar there too. Who else do we got? Oh, God, man. Juanita, a.k.a. Princess. I don't know if we know enough. Oh, no. She beats Tyler Davis, even though she kind of jumps in, but Tyler should have known she was there. I'm still confused by that whole encounter, though, because Tyler was demoted after that happened. But if you watch the Splinter episode, the episode kind of intends that like the whole point was like, because Tyler kind of goes, okay, I got her, guys, I got her, don't worry, I got her, right? It kind of implies that that was part of the plan, because like why would the troops be waiting with everyone like tied up and stuff outside? So it implies that it was like the plan all along was for Tyler to get like overpowered and learn more about her, because she was like the one not speaking really and being closed off. So I'm so fucking confused by that episode, but whatever. I feel like Princess is a meh. I just don't know enough about her. I don't think we see enough of her. I'm sorry. She has to get there. Everything we kind of see her with, she's got a gun, and I think that's not really a demonstration of her fighting abilities. Lily, I love Lily, but I feel like she's a win if lucky. She's just not that capable, in my opinion. She's got some other energy, that's for sure. She's probably capable of. She'd probably be capable of a gun if she survived longer, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like in a fight she wouldn't be that great. Now Andrea, I think is a meh. Now the reason why I say Andrea's a meh is, listen, Andrea's not completely fucking competent. She's able to overpower the RV walker with the screwdriver. She's able to, like, there's one time when she's running away from the governor. You know, she has like a lot of skill there, a lot of fighting. You know, she doesn't really fight him, but she's able to best him in other ways. Now, in the Octagon, could she do that? Not really. But she does get overpowered by the governor and dragged all the way back to Woodbury. That puts her at a disadvantage. I'm thinking that. I think I'm being too nice to Andrea. I feel like she's a will struggle. I think she's better than these guys, but I think she could probably, like, against all these people in this tier, like Carl and Axel and Herschel, and I think she would probably hold her own, but she'd probably struggle against them, you know? I don't think she'd win a fight against, like, Davey and Scott and Simon. Yeah, I think that's fair. We got Elijah. Now, Elijah is a skilled-ass fighter. I think I'm going to have to put him in decent fighter, just because he's obviously clearly, like, very well trained. At the same time, actually, no. At the same time, we haven't seen enough. Now, against the Whisperer, sure, but he has his little scythe things, right? He has weapons. One-on-one fist fight, we've never really seen that. The only time we kind of saw it was with Carver, and he was absolutely easily bested. He did have a bad leg, to be fair, but regardless, I think Elijah is just a bit of skill. I can't put him in decent fighter because he's capable with the little scythe things, right? Or whatever they're called, the fucking weapons he has. But that's not physical. Like, that's not the same as they're sharp, sure. But then that kind of puts him at the same level as like Diane and Yumiko, you know, because they've got to use strength for their bows, and Maggie as well. Yeah, Elijah for me feels like a bit of skill. I feel like that's probably fair. He's a chill guy. He's a nice guy. But I can't put him on the level of these dudes, right? Like Michonne and Tyrese and all that. It just doesn't feel right to me. Ed Peltier. Now, Ed gets easily beaten up by Shane. Although Shane kind of has a surprise attack in a sense. I just don't see. He's just a fucking, what's the word? He's a couch potato. That's the vibe he gives me. So I feel like he's a win if lucky. Anne Jadis Stokes. Okay. Now Anne has like military training like Rick, but probably not at the same level. She's a warrant officer. She's not like a trooper. She does kind of hold her own against Rick in a few fights, like in season 8. Like, well, no, Rick beats her, but you know, he struggles a little bit, although also Rick was tied up, so that's probably not fair. Oh, God, I'm trying to think. What did she do in The Ones Who Live? Does she... Oh, shit, the fight scene with Hook in World Beyond. No. Hook seems very capable, and Jadis bests her. Now, granted, Jadis uses a fucking dirty-ass tactic, but before that, she was holding her own pretty well. And also, she's a warrant officer and all that. No! Fuck it. Unironically, based on the World Beyond scene, I have to put her in decent fighter. I just have to. Yeah, she is there. Now against Michonne, yeah, no, because even like against Michonne and Rick, right? Michonne like stabbed her with the axe, and then Michonne went after her. I feel like she could hold her own against Michonne. If we're talking like Jadis Ones Who Live version, obviously, especially her. Yeah, after she's been CRM trained. She's CRM trained. Yeah, no, easily. No, I'm putting her there. Not even up for debate. Yeah, she's fucking very skilled in fighting. She beats Hook, who herself is like a fucking very capable fighter. We see that too. Dawn Lerner does beat O'Donnell in a fight, I guess, so that's something. I'm just going to put her in the meh, though. It just feels right. I feel like she'd hold her in against these people, but that's about it. Cindy, I'm going to put her in the same vein. She obviously has to be like somewhat capable. We know that she's like good against the dead. We see that she kidnaps all those saviors and stuff, but again, in terms of actual fighting abilities, haven't really seen enough. She has to go in the meh. Gavin, same respect. Same sort of argument for him, just haven't really seen enough against him. And he does kind of cower and run away from Morgan, so that sort of deducts him some points. Pete Anderson does kind of beat up Rick a little bit. He is a big guy. He's experienced in beating people up, aka his wife. And yeah, Rick does beat him in that fight, that's for sure, okay? That's not up for debate. Rick does win that fight. But I feel like Pete does kind of like hold a little bit hold up against Rick. Like, it's not an easy fight for Rick. Rick does win, that's for sure. And that's like a rare exception of an actual one-on-one fist fight. There was no like dirty tactics or anything, apart from going through the window, I guess, but that cut both of them up. That kind of put them both at the sort of equal disadvantage, I feel. So yeah, that's like the one fight scene that we can easily take an easy winner from. But yeah, Pete does kind of hold his own against Rick, and I feel like Pete and Carol, like, I honestly feel like Pete could probably like hold his own against Carol. I feel like Pete could hold his own against Glenn and Joe and all. Yeah, honestly, all these people. He's a big fucking guy. I think he's an underrated fighter, that's for sure. Noah, kind of scrawny, kind of struggles. I feel like he's on the same level as like Nicholas and Aiden, really. I'm gonna put him there. Yeah. That seems fair to me. He does get beaten up by Daryl, but Daryl uses like that bookcase. Oh, seeing as we're talking about him, Tyler Davis gets beaten up by Princess. I'm going to put him in the will struggle. Seemed pretty kind of scrawny. Same level as like Noah and all that, I think. Spencer, I think it's probably on the same level as his brother. Again, kind of scrawny, kind of... no, he's tall. No, Spencer's not scrawny. He's tall. He's fairly well built. I just feel like it's more an experience thing. Yeah, we just never really see him in like a fighting scenario, so yeah, I feel like I'm gonna put him there. Gregory, this guy is a win if lucky. He's an absolute fucking sniveling coward. He easily gets bested by Simon, but then again, that doesn't give any points to Simon because Gregory is just a sniveling fucking coward. Magna, I feel like I've put the rest of her group in the bit of skill. So that kind of feels fair. We see she's capable against some Whisperers and stuff. Survived on the road for a while. I feel like at the very least she's got to have a little bit of skill. But then maybe we haven't seen enough. Maybe I'll just put her in the meh. Oh, also Yumiko punches Carol, doesn't she? Yeah, it was Yumiko who did that. But no, I'm going to put her there. I feel like Magna is a meh. Yeah. I haven't seen enough like the others because she doesn't use a bow and arrow. Oh, no, she does. I've got to put it there. She does at some point. Luke, where's Luke? I'll do Luke real quick. We'll finish out Magna's group. Yeah, for me, I think Luke does have to go in the meh, though. I've put all them in the bit of skill. Luke's in the meh. Although, listen, I think Luke, like, at the start, it's like a slow sort of transition. But at the start, Luke's kind of like a bit of a... he's just being kept alive by these women, basically. He's not that capable. But I think, like, by season 10, like, he's pretty fucking good. Like, he's got that cool-ass weapon of his, and he's, like, smashing in skulls and stuff. Yeah, I feel like Luke could probably hold his own in a fight, somewhat, right? I think he'd struggle, but, yeah, against all these people, I feel like he would hold his own quite a bit. Right, who are we going to go? We'll do Len. This guy... does beat up that Tony dude, right? He's able to strangle the Tony and beat him in a fight. And in turn, we don't really see Tony beat up anyone. But him and Daryl kind of nearly go at it. We have Joe. I feel like Joe is probably got to be then stronger than Tony and Len because he's the leader. So for that, I feel like maybe it is just a case of we haven't seen enough. I think Len probably is in the meh. I think he could probably hold his own against most of these people. Right. We're kind of nearly there. Fucking hell. Paula is beaten by Carol pretty easily, I think. Well, not pretty easily. Carol does struggle to do it. Again, not really seen enough, but I feel like she would be pretty fucking capable in a fight. I'm going to put Vickers down. I just don't feel as strong with Vickers. I feel like she's going to be a will struggle. But Paula, I'm going to put in the meh. Okay, we got Gilmero. Was he a gang member? I feel like he was. That doesn't really prove much, though, because it's just like a pew-pew, using a gun. Again, not really seen enough. I feel like he should be like somewhat capable though, just because of his like sort of lifestyle before the apocalypse, and the fact that he's the leader of this kind of group of thuggish appearing men. I don't know. That he gives me the vibes when I feel like meh is fair. We'll say that. Okay, I'm kind of getting through like a few of these minor ones, and then we'll get onto some of the big hitters. Randall. Kind of scrawny, although he's a little bit skilled. He's able to kill that one walker whilst being tied up. Yeah, I'm gonna put him in the will struggle. I think he could hold his own against most of these people in this other tier, including Carl. Pope. Okay, yes, he's a mercenary, and I think just for that alone, he has to go in bit of skill. I just don't think he was demonstrated as much as like with Leah and with Brandon Carver. So like Brandon Carver, I think is a fucking excellent fighter. Leah, I think is a pretty decent fighter. Pope, just because we never really saw him fucking fight, I'm gonna have to at the very least put him in a bit of skill. Or so that's the highest I can put him. But the fact that we know he's a mercenary and he's fucking all trained and all that, and he's the leader, and we do see that like he overpowers that Bossy. Was a guy called Bossy, right? That one Reaper that he chucks on the fire. We see he's able to overpower that dude. So I think based on that, for me, Pope has to go in bit of skill. We haven't seen enough to put him any higher. Let's do, what's her name? Fucking Jules. Not really seen enough. She probably has to be somewhat, she's skilled with the ropes, She's pulling ropes, she's on ships and stuff. You do need a lot of strength for that. But again, not really seen enough, so I'm going to put her in the meh. Well, she does use a bow and arrow. I think Luke uses a bow and arrow, but not as common as like the others. Yeah, I'm just gonna put it in the meh. Fuck me. I can't. Every time they use a bow and arrow, I can't use that as like that person must be skilled. Speaking of arrows, Shumpert. Okay, he's a bowman. He's a proper bowman. He's a fucking built dude. I love the actor. The actor follows me on Twitter. Pinned my character profile in his timeline. Right. I love the actor. Got to give Shumpert some love. Got to glaze him a little bit. Shumpert, bit of skill. Right. He's got the bow. He's one of the governor's top dudes. Easily goes there. Annie, I think I'm gonna put her in the meh. Like she shows like some fucking good skill. Like takes out some of those Commonwealth soldiers with a lot of ease. She's obviously a very capable survivor. She's been surviving all this time. She's part of the Riverbend community, which like overall were like some pretty fucking grizzled, tough people, right? They seemed like a little bit savage, a little bit, right? Yeah, I feel confident putting Annie in the meh, to be honest. We've got Alan. This guy is bested by Tyrese, kind of a bit scrawny. Don't love him. Don't love his energy. Don't love his vibes. I think he's will struggle. I feel like he'd be bested by most of these people. And that's just a feeling, and I'm going to go with it. Jim is a meh. I don't know if I saw enough of him. He does kill a few walkers with the bat. He is kind of overpowered by Shane, though, so I'm going to have to put him in there. Yeah, that feels right. Lucille is a cancer patient. She's a bit of a, she's like, she would have been a capable survivor, but I feel like the fact that if we're taking just Lucille from when we first saw her, she did have fucking cancer. And even before then, if we're taking like Lucille on the flashbacks, she was just a fucking woman, really. She's just a wife, and there's not really much I can really draw from that in terms of like fighting abilities. So I'm just gonna put Lucille and Winifred Lucky. That feels okay to me. We got Owen, the Alpha Wolf. Now, Owen, the Alpha Wolf, pure fucking savage, absolutely brutal. Okay, this guy does get beaten up by Morgan in a fight, and he does have the surprise attack, and he still loses. Twice, actually. Morgan has he surprise attacks Morgan near the end of season 5. He surprise attacks Morgan in season 6, episode 2. And he wins. He loses every time. And then he surprise attacks Morgan in season 6, and he wins, but Morgan didn't even know he was being surprise attacked. This guy's not a great fighter, is all I'm trying to say. Although, granted, he does obviously survive a while, right? But I feel like he goes against like vulnerable people, and not people who can't fight. And so for that reason, I'm going to put him in the will struggle. I don't feel like putting him in the win if lucky feels fair. But yeah, this guy's not a great fighter at all. He's actually kind of poopy. He's kind of poopy at fighting. Jackie, I'm going to put him win if lucky. She seems like strong enough, but from like the sort of version that we saw of her, she's not like a hardened survivor or anything. I don't feel confident putting her any higher. Okay, we're gonna get onto some big hitters soon. I've left the best till last, basically. Okay, I think all these are big hitters. Oh, we'll do Enid first. Enid, okay, does survive just fight against the Whisperers. I mean, there's not really much more I can take from her though. She doesn't give me strong fighting vibes. But I think she's probably more capable than these people down here. So I'm going to put Enid in the will struggle. So she's on the same tier as like Carl and Axel and all that, basically. That feels right. That feels right to me. Dog. Okay. Now, Dog's allowed to use his teeth because he's a dog. And he can use his paws as well. And for that reason, I think Dog, we see him against a Whisperer. He's able to take out one Whisperer. But I think he's at a disadvantage because he's a fucking dog, okay? Listen, Dog could probably easily bite someone, but they could quite easily also stomp on him. And for that reason, I think Dog would probably struggle against most of these people. I think, yeah. Yeah, no, unironically, he's a dog, okay? I think Andrea would fucking beat him up. I think even Tammy would probably kill Dog. Like, unironically, yeah. I think, there's like a 50-50. I feel like it's a 50-50. I think Tammy and Dog, right? So I'd put it on a coin toss. That was the point of these tiers. Like, so all these people in these tiers, like on a coin toss. So Andrew versus Jules is like a coin toss of who would win. I think that's fair. Yeah. And so for that reason, yeah, Dog, I think, is a will struggle. In that case, though, Shiva is a pro. Because if Shiva's allowed to use her claws and her teeth, even if she just uses her claws, right? Shiva is besting most of, yeah. I think, yeah. Morgan v Shiva, who would win? I don't know. Maybe Morgan would find like some sneaky way. Same with Carver and same with Rick. But I think Shiva against any of these guys, Shiva wins. So yeah, unironically, Shiva is in the fucking pro category. Okay, now we're on to some big hitters. Alpha, now, is kind of beaten up by Daryl, but does also kind of hold her own. It's the only time we kind of see her in a fight scene. Oh no, there's the stuff in Tales as well that we see her in. I unironically think that Alpha is actually probably a decent fighter. Just because she does kind of hold her own against Daryl, right? She isn't easily like overpowered by him when he does have the advantage. Daryl is a very interesting one. I think overall, Daryl, for me, I think elevated a little bit, maybe. I don't know. This is tricky. I'm going to put... Okay. I'm putting Daryl in decent fighter, and there's one reason alone. Every time Daryl's kind of won a fight, it has been like dirty-ass tactics, right? So let's kind of go back. You got season 3. He gets beaten up by Merle, even though Merle's kind of playing, but still beaten up by Merle. Season 4... We've got Daryl versus who? Tyrese, I guess. He's kind of in there. Again, he's got help with Rick. Daryl versus Richard. He does beat Richard, but Richard's nowhere near him anyway, so don't worry about that. Daryl versus Beta, okay? Daryl wins that fight, sure. Daryl, though, dirty ass tactics, okay? He fucking throws him down an elevator. Not cool, okay? So if we're talking Octagon, Daryl versus Beta in the Octagon, Beta is obviously winning. So for that reason, Beta is going in the pro category. I think Beta is probably the most skilled fighter. He could probably easily hold his own against Rick, against Morgan, against Carver, and probably even against Shiva. Daryl, though, I don't know. If Daryl was in the Octagon with Beta, I think Daryl would lose. If Daryl was in the Octagon with Shiva, I think Daryl would lose. Assuming that Shiva would want to kill him. Obviously, Shiva let Daryl pet her, but let's just assume that Shiva is against Daryl, okay? I think Daryl loses. If Daryl was against Rick now, Rick in Ones Who Live Prime, I think Daryl would lose. If Daryl was against Carver, I think he would lose. And if Daryl was against Morgan, I think he would lose, okay? So, all that being said, yeah, I think Daryl is a decent fighter. I think he could hold his own against Tyrese. He could hold his own against Jerry. He could hold his own against Merle. And Daryl is certainly a hardened survivor, that's for sure. But even in like Daryl Dixon Season 1, I feel like all of his fight scenes, he kind of like uses dirty tactics to win them. And I feel like that happened in like Season 11 and Season 10. Like even like his fight against Alpha, right? Yeah, he got stabbed in the leg. But he was like using knives and shit. So yeah, honestly, decent fighter for sure. I just can't put him any higher though. I think these guys are just way better than Daryl. And listen, Daryl's a hardened survivor, but in terms of his fisticuffs, not that great. Eugene, unironically, bit of skill. You know, he overpowers that one Commonwealth trooper and bashes his head in. Now, granted, Eugene did have a little bit of an advantage. Maybe I should put... no. He body slams a walker. He's able to overpower overpower that zombie and throw it on Sebastian. I think Eugene kind of has like a lot of like brute strength. And yeah, he's like a bit of a bigger guy, a bit of a chubby dude, right? But I think he kind of uses that to his advantage when it comes to fights, right? And I think, yeah, if we're talking Season 11 Eugene, unironically, I think he has a bit of skill. Season 11 Eugene could probably hold his own against most of these people. I genuinely believe that. Shane. Now, Shane, I think his fight against Rick kind of loses, I guess, maybe. He resorts to throwing a wrench, which is a bit dirty. His fight against Ed, he wins quite easily. Shane seems like a really strong guy, you know. But again, I feel like we haven't seen enough. He didn't survive long enough. I think I'm going to have to put him in bit of skill. That seems reasonable to me. That seems like I'm not overshadowing some of his accomplishments, like his fight against Rick and all that, where he does, you know, hold his own, I guess. He's able to sort of, not best Rick, but he's able to not be absolutely, have the shit beat out of him. But at the same time, again, I don't know if he'd hold his own against Merle or Eastman or Jesus. But I do know he'd hold his own against Sasha and Dante. I feel like he could probably hold his own against those guys. But yeah, the sort of disadvantage with Shane is that he just didn't survive long enough for me to really feel like I could put him any higher. Abraham Ford. Now, Abraham... So Abraham's a weird one. He knocks out Eugene like 3 punches. That's like some fucking strength right there. In the flashback, we see that he killed three or four dudes with a fucking can, right? So, yeah, he did have a weapon, a fucking tin of food, but really that was more of his fists, okay? We see him like use the butt of a gun to absolutely cave in zombie skulls. We see that he takes the baseball bat like a champ. No, yeah, we have like different fights with like saviors and stuff. But he does get bested by that one Andy guy, the hilltop dude. But that was kind of like he was having a moment, I guess, in a sense, because he was obviously having the moment where he realized that, you know, he wanted to be with Sasha, so he was in like an emotional kind of dip there, I guess. Either way, all in all, I feel like Abraham is a decent fighter from everything we're seeing. I can't put him in the pro though. I think pro's too far. But yeah, he's a decent fighter. That's quite clear. Gabriel, I think listen, I think Gabriel has to be a decent fighter. We see that he even like season fucking 5 Gabriel, like lifted up a walker and body slammed it. That's insane. And chopped a fucking zombie's head off using a rope. Like, he does that in season 5. So even in season 5, Gabriel had like a fair amount of strength. But then we see him like later on, like, his fight against those Whisperers was kind of pathetic, but, you know, he was overpowered. There was more than one. We have his fight against Maze. Like, I say fight against Maze. But he, like, you know, he uses Aaron's heart ball arm to, like, fucking cave in Maze's skull. Yeah, I feel like Gabriel is a fucking menace. He does have a lot of strength. Yeah. And unironically, yeah, and he's, like, determined as well. I feel like Gabriel's like the dark horse. Like, no one. Oh, I don't mean that to be like weirdly rapist. Whatever. It wasn't a race comment. Fuck's sake. Oh my god. I'm so tired. I'm so done. No, he's like a dark horse in the sense that, like, we don't know. I feel like people probably wouldn't think of him being like a skilled fighter, but unironically, he kind of actually is. When you really think about it, like all these like small scenes that he has. But yeah, he's got some fucking strength to him, that's for sure. So yeah, he's gonna go in decent fighter. Okay, fuck me, we're nearly done. Michael Mercer. Okay, this guy's built like a fucking tank. He's at the gym every day. We see him like fucking caving zombie skulls. Now, granted, we haven't seen that much of him, but I feel that confident that he could easily like hold his own against Rick and Morgan and Carver, Shiva and Beta. I feel confident that he could, that I have to put him in pro. Yeah, we didn't see much of him, but like we see him training. We know how fucking built this guy is. Quite easily, he's a pro. Okay, last three. Thank fuck. Negan, first of all. We'll do Negan. Now, Negan, I think, has to be decent fighter. Okay, Negan is able to cave people's heads in with a baseball bat. Takes a bit of strength. That does, I guess. Kind of, yeah. He has a weapon, sure. Now, we see his fight against... Well, I say we see his fight against Beta. We don't really have a fight against Beta, unfortunately, with Negan, which is very upsetting, but whatever. So, we have... Negan versus Simon, he beats that fight pretty easily. Negan versus Rick, he does kind of hold his own, although this is Rick pre-CRM training. Yeah, I don't know. It feels right. Decent fighter for Negan? Yeah, because I think he could hold his own against most of these people, but I feel like he'd easily beat all of these people, like in the bit of skill tier. So yeah, decent fighter for Negan. That seems fair. Okay, finally, the Governor. The reason why I left this one till last is I think it's a controversial one. But I'm going to put the Governor in pro. Okay? Now, you got to hear me out. Why is the Governor in pro? So, let's go for it. So, Season 3, the Governor easily would have beaten Michonne if she didn't stab him in the eye, right? She didn't use the dirty tactics. He won that fight, okay? So he beats Michonne easily. The Governor versus Merle. He won that fight. Although, yes, Merle was at a disadvantage. Merle, like, threw in a couple punches. And it kind of did fuck all to the Governor. Like, it didn't even phase him. The Governor, like, fucking bit the bastard's finger off, for Christ's sakes. Right? And the Governor, like, he barely broke a fucking sweat whilst doing it, okay? And then we have Rick versus the Governor. Now... Granted, this was Rick pre-CRM training, and I think if there was a rematch today, Rick would probably win. But the Governor won that fight against Rick, okay? Rick v Governor Season 4, the Governor easily won that fight. And people like to say, well, Rick was shot in the leg. Sure. The Governor was shot in the fucking shoulder that he's right-hooking Rick in, okay? So, in a sense, they're at an equal disadvantage. But on top of that, Rick has the element of surprise. Rick surprises the Governor, right? But the Governor still fucking bests Rick easily. So the Governor would have killed Michonne if she didn't use the glass. The Governor easily killed Merle. And the Governor easily would have killed Rick, okay? If it wasn't for Michonne saving the day. It's always Michonne ruining the Governor's triumphant victories. Plus, then we have, like, small things, like the Governor was able to overpower Andrea, drag her ass to Woodbury, right? The Governor was able to, like, Milton came at him with a knife, fucking turned his arm around and stabbed him, like, very easily. No fucking hesitation, right? No struggle. he wasn't able to chop Herschel's head off in one cut, but I mean that's like, I feel like that's unfair to think. He was able to oh god, here's one. The governor hit a golf ball hard enough that it fucking caved a zombie's head in. Okay, think of that. He hit a fucking golf ball so hard it caved in his skull. All right, I'm sorry. People like to cope, but the governor is one of the most fucking capable fighters. And I think if we're just talking like pre-season 6, like season 6 and season 6 and anything that came before it, I think the governor is on par with Morgan. Like the governor and Morgan are like on the top tier. Okay. Yeah. The governor is a fucking really capable fighter, and I think people underestimate it. And it really triggers me sometimes. And that's why I wanted to leave it till last. But, yeah. Saying that, I think pre-CRM governor would probably be... I think the governor probably would lose against all these people now. So actually the governor goes into decent fighter, but he's at the top. He's at the top of decent fighter. I just think all these people have kind of gained more experience. But I wanted to briefly put the governor in pro, just to kind of give my arguments. But the reason why he can't stay in pro is I think Morgan and the skills he's got probably would beat the governor at this point. Carver, I think, with his skill, although the governor is a fucking strong brute, I think it would be a struggle, but I feel like Carver would win. Rick has his CRM training, so at this point would probably beat the governor. Mercer, I think, is more built than the governor. Shiva's a fucking tiger, and Beta's a fucking tank. So yeah, I think at this point the governor would actually slip into decent fighter. But I feel like the governor and Daryl, I feel like the governor would hold his own against Daryl if it was a one-on-one, just a fist fight. Tyrese, same deal. Jerry, Merle, all of these, right? Merle, I think, is the one exception. But again, Merle was at a disadvantage. He had been, like, stomped on and shit. So, yeah, I feel like governor actually probably does slip into decent fighter. But I had to go on my little rant there to defend the governor's fighting ability honor. And then finally, Wayne Dunlap. Wayne Dunlap is obviously a pro. We all know that. He's probably the best fighter the show has ever seen. We all love Wayne Dunlap. Praise be to Wayne Dunlap. This video went on too long, and I've got a bit insane. When you talk for like 2 hours straight, you go a bit mental. Anyway, any ideas for some tiers? Let me know. I hope you enjoyed this long ass fucking video. If you made it to the end, if you managed to make it to the end, right, and you're a true Magnus Robert fan, okay? If you're a true fan of these tiers, you're going to leave a little keyword for me in the comments to prove it. And that keyword is praise be Wayne, all right? It's a key phrase, not keyword. Praise be Wayne, okay? Leave that in the comments. I know you made it to the end of the video, and that means I'll take your suggestions more seriously. Goodbye.